Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the live studios here in Radha Lane, and that's right, it is Radha Lane. You can even mail a letter here if you like, or a package. ISKCON of Houston, Texas, right next to Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Mandir. We have a room full of serious hearers today, and some devotees from Dallas are here for Krishna Maharaj's Vyasa Puja tomorrow. Some of our all-time favorites, Mahahari, more or less the head pujari in Dallas, and Devaprastha, and Adi Shakti, and Jeremy's here again. Haribol. Okay. Yesterday we had a little bit of a marathon, and we read the whole 11th chapter. Everybody's giggling because it was so much ecstasy we didn't want to leave the room. We found out who Krishna was. There's two purports towards the end of the 11th chapter. There, Prabhupada just lays it out, who Krishna is on all levels. So we heard that. Arjuna heard that. And now we're going to the 12th chapter, which is entitled Devotional Service. So this is what you do once you know who Krishna is. Okay. But first we're going to chant Srila Prabhupada's Mangalacharna prayers, his auspicious introduction to the Bhagavad-gita as it is. It goes like this. Om Ajnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam. I was born in the darkness, ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Pudijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master and under the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Dasa and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindho, Dinabandho, Jagatpate, Gopisha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute. Oh my dear Krishna, ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the cowherd men and the lover of the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Divi Pranamami Hari Priye. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who was the queen of Vrindavan. You were the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you were very dear to Lord Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. I offer my obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, chapter 12, Bhagavad-gita as it is, Devotional Service. Bhakti-yoga, pure devotional service to Lord Krishna, is the highest and most expedient means for attaining pure love for Krishna. Well, Hare Krishna, Kartikeya, Hare Krishna. How are you? So nice to see you. The room is filling up. We're going to build another floor. Hare Krishna. There's chairs here. There's chairs. It's like a family reunion. Yeah. It literally, it's a family reunion. Okay. Chapter 12. Bhagavad-gita as it is, directly from the source.
Okay.
Text 1. Oops, what did I do? I did something. Yeah, text 1. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yukta ye bhaktas tvam paryupasate ye chap aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yogavita maha. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Purport. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself, not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti-yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti-yoga, or devotional service to Him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct, and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. In the seventh chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again, in the 8th chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the 6th chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad-gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma-jyoti. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the Absolute Truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the Absolute Truth. Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vesha Mano Yemam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shradaya Padayopitas Te Me Yukta Tama Mataha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Purport. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon the personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam, or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities for Krishna, to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Text 3 and 4. Ye tvakshadamanyir desham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam saniyam yendriyagramam sarvatra samabhudayaha te prapnubhati mameva sarvabhuta hite ritaha. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons, engaged in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Purport. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge, after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the Supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of hearing, seeing, hearing, tasting, working, and so on. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. Text 5. Klesho dikadadas sham abhyakta sakta chetasam abhyakta higatir dukam dehavadbir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Purport. The group of transcendentalists who follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti-yogis. Now here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti-yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas the path of Bhakti-yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, although represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street, and if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box, or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme God. It's the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti-yoga, or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual, blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krsna. Text 6 and 7. Yetu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matpadaha ananyenaiva yogena mam jayantu upasate tesham maham samudartha mrityu sangsara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Purport. It is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from the material existence by the Lord. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great and that the individual soul is subordinate to him. His duty is to render service to the Lord, and if he does not, then he will render service to Maya. As stated before, the Supreme Lord can be appreciated only by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life's mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction. Just as Arjuna did in the Battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotee to the personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay he will deliver a pure devotee, thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process, and others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord himself takes him. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. In the Varaha Purana, this verse appears. The Prabhupada is a pure, liberated soul, and he makes it easier. He doesn't make it more difficult. So when you associate with people who are very philosophical and sometimes unreasonably austere and demanding in so many ways, it makes it more difficult. But Prabhupada's mission was to make it easier to approach Krishna. That was Lord Chaitanya's mission also. So Lord Prabhupada is in a direct line to Lord Chaitanya. In the Varaha Purana, this verse appears. Nayami paramam stanam archir adigatim bina garuda skandam aropya yatech cham anivartitaha. The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once riding on his bird carrier, Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from this material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths. In the Narayaniya, this is confirmed as follows. Ya vai sadhana sampati purushartha chatushtaye taya vina yadapnoti naro narayana shrayaha. The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental, speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from the other yogic processes: speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, and so on. That is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this designation cannot be approached by any other process of religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad-gita is stated in the 18th chapter, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Yishami Ma Shuchaha. One should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life, because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the Supreme, Omnipotent Godhead, Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. Text 8. Just fix your mind upon me. Mai eva mana adatsva Mayi buddhim niveshaya na vishyasyasya mayeva ata urdvam nasangshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. Purport. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad-gita and in other Vedic literatures. Text 9. Atachitam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayistiram abhyasa yogina tato mam ichchaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Purport. In this verse, two different processes of Bhakti-yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti-yoga is the purification of the senses. In the present moment, in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti-yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there's no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service, performed with the present senses. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways. But it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant, natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti-yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. These are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of Bhakti-yoga, under the rules and regulations, with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. Jai Prabhupada. Text 10. Abhyase pyasamartho si mad karma paramo bhava mad artam apikarmani kurvan siddhim avapsyasi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Purport. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect. Text 11. Atai tad apyashakto si kartum mad yogamashritaha sarva karma palatyagam tatak kuduyatat mavan. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Purport. It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. For one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions for the full moon day, and there is special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. It is also found that when one who is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness, gives charity to some hospital or some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended here, because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, and so on, may be accepted, so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad-gita, we find it stated, Yatak pravritir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the Supreme Cause, even if he does not know that the Supreme Cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Cause by the sacrificial method. Text 12. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj jnanad dhyanam vishishyate jnanad karmapalas kyagas kyagachantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Purport. As mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulated principles and the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. In the cultivation of knowledge, there are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme. And that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties, as enjoined in the Vedic literature, for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of Bhagavad-gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. Can we open this door? Need some air. Yeah. Thank you. In summary,
he's got the air conditioner turned down next to him.
He's got it turned down. Acha. Go tell him to turn it up. Yeah. He'll do it. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development. He's not there?
He's got a sign on his door that says, "Please do not disturb."
Knock on it anyway.
Okay.
I'll take the heat. I mean, we are taking the heat at the moment. I wish I could just take the heat, but unfortunately, I'm not in that platform. So, here we go. What?
That's real hard.
Okay. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties, as enjoined in the Vedic literature, for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of Bhagavad-gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Did I tell you?
You didn't answer.
We didn't answer. Feels like we're getting some coolness.
Well, it's cool in the hallway.
Oh, I see. Oh, good. Oh, good. In summary, just to focus our mind back on our business here. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the Supersoul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna, because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for others who are not at this stage. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad-gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Text 13 and 14. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukhakshami santushtak satatam yogi yatatma dhritanishchayaha mayarpitamano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Now, from now on to the end of the chapter, we're going to hear what pleases Krishna.
I certainly don't qualify on this verse 13 and 14.
Purport. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. So it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, it is stated, Tate nukampam susamikshimano Bunjana evat mikritam pibakam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama, note to Crump, make memo. A devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because of his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments, because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. Bayod Vegair Mukto Yak Sachame Priyaha. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and was not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. Purport. A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification in his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna. Text 16. Anapeksha shuchir daksha udasino gata vyataha sarvaramba parityagi yomad bhakta same priyaha. My devotee who was not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who was pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. Purport. Money may be offered to a devotee, but he should not struggle to acquire it. If automatically, by the grace of the Supreme, money comes to him, he is not agitated. Naturally, a devotee takes a bath at least twice a day and rises early in the morning for devotional service. Thus he is naturally clean, both inwardly and outwardly. A devotee is always expert because he fully knows the essence of all activities of life and he is convinced by the authoritative scriptures. A devotee never takes the part of a particular party. Therefore he is carefree. Memo to Trump. My dear Trump, he is never pained because he is free from all designations. He knows that his body is a designation, so if there are some bodily pains, he is free. The pure devotee does not endeavor for anything which is against the principles of devotional service. For example, Constructing a big building requires great energy, and a devotee does not take to such business if it does not benefit him by advancing in his devotional service. He may construct a temple for the Lord, and for that he may take all kinds of anxiety, but he does not construct a big house for his personal relations. Text 17. Yona no yona rishyati na dveshti. Oh, it's Maturna. I kept you a chair. Look, old men like us, we sit in chairs. This is what we do for a living.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. There you go. Salt of the earth.
That's what I'm turning into.
Yo na rishyati yo na dveshti na shochati na kankshati shubha shubha parityagi bhaktiman yak same priyaha. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. Purport. A pure devotee is neither happy nor distressed over material gain and loss, nor is he very much anxious to get a son or disciple, nor is he distressed by not getting them. If he loses anything which is very dear to him, he does not lament. Similarly, if he does not get what he desires, he is not distressed. He is transcendental in the face of all kinds of auspicious, inauspicious, and sinful activities. He is prepared to accept all kinds of risks for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is an impediment in the discharge of his devotional service. Such a devotee is very dear to Krishna. Text 18 and 19. Samak shatrau chamitre cha tata manapamana yoho shitoshna sugadukeshu samak sangha vivarjitaha tulya nindastutir mauni santushto yinakinachit aniketak stiramatir bhaktiman me priyo naraha. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Purport. A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised, and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress, or happiness. He is patient. He does not speak of anything but topics about Krishna. Therefore he is called silent. Silent does not mean that one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. A devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable foodstuffs, sometimes not. But he is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree. He may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. He is called fixed because he is fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualifications of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Haro abhaktasya kutat mahadgunaha. One who is not a devotee has no good qualifications. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional service automatically helps him develop them. Text 20. Ye tu dhamamritam idam yakto tam paryupasate yatoktam paryupasate shadadana mat parama mat bhaktaste tiva me priyaha. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Purport. In this chapter, from verse 2 through the end, from Mayi Avesha Mano Ye Mam, fixing the mind on me, through Ye Tu Dharmamritam Idam, this religion of eternal engagement, the Supreme Lord has explained the processes of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts a person engaged in them. The question of who is better, one who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in the personal service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna, and the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only path, absolute path, for self-realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth, as described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with the pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, one works without fruitive result, meditates, and cultivates knowledge to understand spirit and matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness in pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo step-by-step improvements in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Thus end the Bhakti-vedanta purports to the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-gita in the matter of devotional service. Hare Krishna. Pure devotional service. So, now what we do now is we have reflections. Any point that stuck out in your mind as you were hearing? Yes, Devaprastha Prabhu is going to, I'm going to repeat it in here so that everyone can hear. Instruct me that when Krishna was giving all the various levels of how liberal he is, that no one is excluded. The same thing I was thinking. Took the thunder out of my next point. No, joking, just joking. Yeah, that's wonderful. Everybody fits into devotional service. Everyone is on the path. Isn't that what Krishna says in the 4th chapter? Somebody remember the verse? Yayatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama manuvartante manusham partha sarvasha. As they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. because he's organizing everything. Everything that is there in our attempt means through the senses and the sense objects. All the results, they're all transformations of his energy. So everyone's actually looking for Krishna. So just imagine how fortunate we are to be all sitting here in this room, hearing Krishna instruct us in Bhagavad-gita. Huh? So lucky. So if we make this the cornerstone of our devotional lives, gratitude. I heard Gopi Pranadana Prabhu make a really nice point. He said there are 3 classes of devotees, beginning, intermediate, and advanced. Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam. He said the first perform service out of fear. The second perform service out of duty and gratitude. And the third perform service out of love. And this chapter actually very much embodies that concept. Yes, my dear Nandini. G. I was listening to a class this morning from Vaisheshika Prabhu. Well done, I might add. He's a charya. He's a charya. He's full. He's playing with a full deck.
He's so beautiful. I just love to watch his classes. And so in this, he referenced Bhagavatam 5.5.4 and 5.5.5. He was so cute. But he was mentioning, and it's mentioned in this chapter, about being equiposed in happiness, distress.
Vaisheshika Prabhu quoted 2 verses from Bhagavatam. She was listening to the lecture, and it talked about being equipoised in happiness and stress, just as in this chapter.
And also, understanding that if you remember those verses in Bhagavatam, how we're not the body.
And also understanding how, remembering those verses, we remember how we're not the body, but we're eternal spiritual souls. And he mentioned
that he has, we all know how learned and special
we all know how learned and special he is.
That's
True.
For so many, many years. I mean, he can quote everything inside and out. It's beautiful. But he mentioned,
even though he can quote everything inside and out,
that when his parents left their bodies,
but when his parents left their bodies,
he was affected.
He was affected.
And he gave the example. He said he was so affected that he got on the highway and drove the wrong way.
He was so affected he got on the highway and drove the wrong way.
Realized.
Can I give you a little detail? Because he's my best friend.
Yeah, I know. Share that.
His mom was close to leaving her body. I have a picture actually on my hard drive of her laying in the bed with this huge grin on her face. And she looked, there was nothing left. She was almost out. Yeah. And she had this big grin on her face like this. And Vaisheshika Prabhu told me he gave her initiation. This is confidential stuff because this was before he was a guru. Right. Before you had to pass the guru disciple course. Aren't we supposed to make Krishna conscious easier? Anyway, that's a separate issue. And then he came into a room and he looked at him and he said, "Don't worry, I'm Jamuna." Oh. And he took the picture just as she said that. She was like this. Oh, great. "Don't worry, I'm Jamuna." So it wasn't just because they were his parents that he felt like that. It was because, especially she was a devotee. And I can tell you from personal experience, I told my story in a BTG article about my mom. Yeah, when she passed away. I came right after that, actually, in Dallas, with Tamal Krishmar sitting by my side, remember? And he insisted that I tell that story. And I told the whole story. And it was kind of famous. And this is something I was going to speak about anyway. I'll speak about it now and speak about something else tomorrow. There's lots of things to say. Anyway, and he and Shivaram Maharaj were my 2 best friends at that time. And so I asked them what I should do, and they said, "You should stay with her until she leaves, no doubt." So when she left, after that whole saga of getting her to chant and her and and getting initiated, and Nandarani. She still gets Shraddha every year on the day of her disappearance in both Radhakund and in Govardhan, by the way, every day, every year. So you see, it's so funny. They send me pictures, and there's all these little bubbas from Radhakund, and the person that we know who's doing it, he's sitting there giving them something, some gift, 10 rupees and some prasadam or something, and they're all grinning, and my mom's picture is there, in Radhakund. It's like, it's far out. But what I was going to say was that when she left, I just went into the next room, which was, the front room of the house where I was raised a lot of my life, and I sat down on the floor and I cried for 2 days. Didn't stop for 2 days, just wow, wow, wow. And then I realized that this wasn't just, it wasn't just grief, although there was an element of grief, of course. There was a tremendous cathartic experience. When your parents leave, there's a subtle connection to the material world that's cut, and you feel some relief, actually, from a certain level of responsibility. And then when they're devotees, and it's like very meaningful. Yeah, so the point I was reflecting on all the way through the chapter was just how empowered Prabhupada was to explain Krishna consciousness in such a clear and simple way that anyone can understand practically, and the sound is so powerful that it actually changes the heart. So this is my anyway, I wrote an offering this year. This is my fourth one on the same subject. This one's called Letting Prabhupada Speak for Himself, Part 2.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and I used up every word that they gave us. We're not allowed to go over 3,000 words. I went out 2,999 words. Yeah, and I checked it on my word processor, and I had to keep adjusting, and I got one word, and then I made the went over the finish line, Yeah, and it was all about this. It was all about this. How much Prabhupada wanted us to read his books, and how many devotees have fallen away from actually reading his books, and how much this sacrifice that we're doing, this is definitely a sacrifice of reading the books out loud every day, and online, live streaming, and we now have 558 followers, and we have anywhere from 250, 300, and sometimes more. One time we had 1,400 viewers, not live, but at some point during the next day or 2 or 3. Yeah. So, Hare Krishna. I need the blessings of the Vaishnavas. Please. Hare. Thank you very much.
Maharaj, you're at 579 now.
579. Okay, we're headed in the right direction. And I already made the comment. I already made the comment during the reading, but no offense to anyone, included anyone, but when I hear other people in other lines talk, it seems like it's making it more difficult. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this, can't do this, can't. But Prabhupada was just, he made it so attractive and easy to actually be a devotee. That's Lord Chaitanya. He doesn't consider who's fit and who's unfit. He gives Krishna consciousness. And if we help him to do that, then we get this taste. There's nothing like this taste of giving Krishna consciousness to others. And gusto superior. Sin duda. Anybody else? Any other comments? Reflections? Questions? From our new bhaktas and bhaktins? Hannah? Nothing? You're so overwhelmed in ecstasy. This is Hannah. She's a special soul. Ask anybody. Yes.
Just reflecting, I think it was the last
Nandini is reflecting, last purport.
how, it doesn't matter where you live.
Doesn't matter where you live, or
And I was thinking about how Prabhupada preferred the hut Mayapur.
Yeah?
Preferred that.
Yeah.
Secure.
Yeah.
I think he was at one of the wealthiest, I think I was at Richard Tom.
Yeah, sometimes.
He was at a wealthiest home. He said, this is the best of places.
Yes. And then he said, but if I was to stay just in this hut, nobody would come. So it was an austerity to him. It was an austerity to him to live in a big building.
Because he was snoring.
Well, I got a story to tell about your Guru Dev. Anyway, that one I'm going to tell tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to tell that one tomorrow. I'm not going to give away that one. It's too sweet.
So,
Have a snoring.
Yes, Kartikeya, huh?
I was going to say have a snoring pastime of Srila Guru.
He has a snoring pastime?
Yeah.
I hope you're not going to put us all to sleep, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
Once he was, he said he was dreaming, and he was dreaming that he was giving class, and that somebody in the next room was snoring. So he said, who is that snoring? And people were looking around. So he got up off his Vyasa-san and he went in, and he took the person by the shoulder and he started shaking. And he said he woke himself up because it was him snoring.
Good fun. Kartikeya.
Last time in my report, he said, no, Prabhupada, I wasn't snoring. He said, yes, you were snoring. And he sent him out in the field. Remember that?
Everybody, I'm going to give you a little tour of the personalities who are in the room tonight. There you go. Hare Krishna. This is what happens when you read Prabhupada's books out loud. Every day. Yes. Yes. Ta-da! Maturnath. Yes. This is what happens. So anybody can do this. Look, there's some hearts bubbling around in there. You're all getting some love. Love, love, love. Talking about love. Kartikeya, you were about to say something.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm about to say, but you say that, Srila Prabhupada makes it so easy.
I say that Prabhupada makes it so easy.
Yeah, the
Process of Krishna consciousness.
Yet, as we were reading in this chapter,
the qualifications
that one needs,
the qualification that one needs
very, very dear to Krishna,
to become very, very dear to Krishna,
are a
very lofty
proposition.
Yes.
So somebody mentioned that one time Srila Prabhupada was giving a
Somebody
class
mentioned that
in
Srila Prabhupada was once giving a class in Mayapur.
and devotees put forth this question.
And devotees put forward this question.
Prabhupada,
To get to pure devote prema,
to get to bhava,
bhava,
which is
mind-boggling.
None of us is going to be.
None of us is going to be able to do that.
And Srila Prabhupada kind of said, and if you were there correctly.
He kind of said, and if he's wrong, then I'll correct him. Oh, go ahead.
And Srila Prabhupada said, okay, 90%.
Okay, 90%.
Srila Prabhupada said. Oh.
Okay, so you can get 90% and make it.
And then they kept saying, 90%.
Well, Prabhupada, 90%. How can nobody's gonna get that?
And Srila Prabhupada said, okay, 80%.
Okay, 80%. Prabhupada said, okay, 80%.
And then they still actually yeah.
And still,
And so he was giving classes in the US, and they said, okay, 70%. And
he said, and then he got up and left. I heard it the same thing. I heard a little different. He went down below 70%. Actually, I heard it. That he went below 70%.
Oh, really? Oh,
way below 70%. But the point that I got from that was that although it's a fact that until a person becomes actually pure and fully absorbed in pure devotional service, then those qualities, those exalted qualities, won't fully manifest. But the process that we're being given to get there is actually simple and is actually easy by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, to chant Hare Krishna, and to follow the full regulator principles. It's just, sometimes, in the beginning of the chapter it was talking about how the impersonalists, they take the difficult path. And sometimes the impersonalists say that this bhakti path is inferior because it's so easy, but our path is very difficult. Then Prabhupada just laughed, and he said, well, if it's so difficult, why do they want to take the difficult path? Why don't they take an easy path? Then he said, because bhakti is not so easy. It's not so easy to follow strictly these even simple things in the Kali Yuga. And Lord Chaitanya knows. He knows our position in the Kali Yuga, how fallen we are. He knows. And therefore he's given us this movement and all these deities and the association and prasadam and the holy name and the kirtans, and it's spreading. And people are getting advanced. People are advancing. People are advancing. I mean, just the fact that we're all sitting here together and able to follow what Prabhupada's saying and appreciate it, is very special. Hannah was going to say something.
I was going to say, I've seen a few impersonalists be able to travel to other planets.
You've seen them? Or they just told you they were?
Like, I've seen people very, very conscious, but they're not conscious of Krishna. They're conscious
Oh, she's seen people very conscious, but not conscious of Krishna.
But they're still able to develop.
But they're still able. Well, that's the point. That was the point that Prabhupada made in the purport. When you come to the impersonal stage, you're actually in presence of Krishna, but you're only in presence of his effulgence. It's like if you're very, very, very far away from someone, and they're very powerful, you can feel their presence, you can be in their presence. But to be close up, and to be able to shake hands and all of that, that's much nicer. It's much more satisfying. That's the basic idea. It's not that there's an argument, there is not an impersonal feature, and that's why it says in here, if a person does actually worship the impersonal feature properly, eventually after many, many births, he will come to the same point of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya came to give us the direct method, so we don't have to take that trouble to go through so many births to get there. Prabhupada said, what's the use of taking, of going up the stairs of a 60-story building if you can take an elevator? That's the point. Not that the impersonalists aren't, in some cases, elevated souls. In other cases, they're not elevated souls, because some of those persons who are in that condition, they take it that condition is the absolute, and they criticize Krishna. So if a person's an impersonalist and criticizes Krishna and undermines him or minimizes him and thinks he's Maya, then that's not a real advanced impersonalist. That's a demoniac person. And they're not going to get the goal by their process. They're going to go to bad places.
Yeah.
Bad places.
I personally felt that before I...
Hannah personally felt it before I became...
Not even I became, before Krishna moved things out of
Before
the way.
Krishna moved things out of the way so she could see him.
I was more impersonal. I felt that energy, like I could...
I was more impersonal. I felt the energy. But, we're all like that. We're all practically we're all like that. I mean, you're just coming to that. You're very lucky. She's 18 years old. She just turned 18 years old. And she started coming here.
I remember.
And she just became a devotee, like almost, it was amazing, almost overnight, just by hearing Prabhupada. Very wonderful, very lucky. But the fact is, I remember when I left university, or high school, I went to university, I went through a whole stage of agnosticism and all these different ideas, even though I was raised more or less religious. And hey, I think almost everyone goes through that process. But to come as young as you are, that's very, very special. You should feel gratitude.
I wrote that early. I wrote my paper. I started early.
You started early. She wrote it in her paper. Yeah.
So I have much to do.
I was bringing her near.
Very nice.
Started late and I have much to do.
For those who start later, we have more to do.
Brains are as clear.
Prabhupada told the story about the Stradivarius School of Violin, which is the most famous school of violin. I think it's in Austria or someplace. And they charge fees according to the number of years of lessons the person has performed. And they charge more the more lessons they've had, because they have to unteach them bad habits they've had before they can do it properly.
I feel like that makes an even stronger and more pure devotee, having known.
That makes it. This is Hana's conclusion, that it makes for a more pure and strong devotee because
having known all that suffering for so long. Yes, that's one of the purposes of the suffering in the material world. It's Krishna's mercy. Because if it wasn't there, then we wouldn't care to change anything. We would just keep playing. We wouldn't put our toys on the shelf. You got to put your toys on the shelf to be able to go back from the beach with your parents. Yes, Kartikeya.
Today, coming down from Dallas, we were listening.
Today, coming down from Dallas, he was listening to a lecture of Gurudev.
Mm-hmm. And he was quoting Haridas Thakur.
Yeah.
He was quoting Haridas Thakur.
And he was talking about the offenses.
And he was talking about the offenses and chanting Hare Krishna.
And he said, like to share this with everyone, he said that the 10th offense...
He said that the 10th offense, being attentive while chanting,
is what causes all the other offenses.
is what causes all the other. Yes, that's right.
So it just makes a lot of sense, but it hit me like,
I remember one time he told me at one point that if you just chant, the beginning of being able to chant peacefully and without distraction is the thought that this time belongs just to Krishna and my spiritual master. This is just for them, and everything else you just put aside and just chant. And in that way you very easily and quickly make advancement. But there's a nice verse in the Padma Purana that says, Namaparada yuktanam namameva varam mayam agam. Anyway, I might not have got that exactly right. It means that the chanting of Hare Krishna is also for offenders. Because if they continue to chant, because when you offend the holy name, then there's no purification for that. There's methods that you can gradually come free from them. Like if you offend a devotee, you're supposed to go to that devotee
and beg forgiveness. And if they don't forgive you, you keep begging until they do, or you keep serving them and doing what's needful until they do. Like that, there's different for different. If you offend the scriptures, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani says, if you offend the scriptures, then you must in public glorify the same scriptures that you offended. Things like that. So there are things you know. But this verse in the Padma Purana says that the only force or the only thing that is powerful enough to relieve one from the offenses to the holy name is the holy name itself. So one is recommended to continue to chant without stoppage. In the 31st verse of the 9th chapter, there Krishna says, Prabhupada says in the purport, that if you just keep chanting Hare Krishna, then whatever residue there may be of bad habits from your previous life or this life, sinful activities, they will be cleansed. But it'll take longer. Not that we should take advantage of that and just not try and just chant. You have to chant and try. That's why it's important to read the books and chant. And I in this offering that I made this year, which I'll publish it in Dandavats and send it around. But Dravida, when he got it, he sent me back a note. He said, "This is a very powerful offering," and that's coming from him. He doesn't pass around his praise too often. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a blockbuster, or at least I hope it will. Yeah, because I'm getting it from doing this every day. This is 5 years. I've been doing this every year for 5 years, every day for 5 years, without stopping, one day. And now just by Rati Manjaris and Ragalekas and Davide's encouragement, I started to do this live stream, and it's making it even more powerful. So this is it. If we chant and if we hear Prabhupada's books regularly, sincerely, and submissively, and this is the key. This is the key. You can't get full realization of Krishna consciousness in any other way except by submissive oral reception. And then with the vision you get from that knowledge, then when you see the deity, the other process of devotional service, then it activates it, it becomes more effective. There was a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote in, I believe it was 1972, to Satsvarup Maharaj, and he was the GBC that time of Dallas. The school was there, Gurukula. And there was a question that was something about deity worship, and maybe they were having some problems in the deity whatever. I don't remember what the reason was, but Prabhupada in his letter he wrote, he said, and if you don't hear and chant properly and sufficiently, then even when you're addressing the deities, it will be as if you're addressing dolls. So it's the hearing and chanting that empowers us to do devotional service. And even for some reason, if we can't do, external practical devotional service for whatever reason, if we just hear and chant properly and perfectly, that will take us back to Godhead. Just one of those processes, one of the 9 angas of devotional service. But if you try to do the other angas without the hearing, then you can't understand exactly what to do, what the proper mentality is, what the way to do it, the way to chant even. Yes, Nandini.
So we had a really nice experience this past Purushottam month.
So we had a real nice experience this past Purushottam month.
The first day was Chaitanya Chandra's birthday.
First day was Chaitanya Chandra's birthday. How about that?
We went to a celebration at Radhakund.
So we went to a celebration at Radhakund.
Bihari was there.
And Vrindavan Bihari was there.
So we all passed around and read aloud chapter 15.
So we went around and passed around and read chapter 15.
Gita, which we
So
did
nice chapter.
every night.
Very nice.
And I saw Giri Raj posted something very nice about that.
Oh.
That he concluded reading
And then Giriraj Maharaj posted a very nice point about that on the internet, that
And
reading and
about his book.
about his book.
Mumbai.
Oh, he's getting close to finishing it.
Close to finishing.
Wow, that's going to be a real welcome addition to the literature, glorifying Prabhupada's pastimes. Yeah,
Mr. Nair.
definitely. Would want to be in Mr. Nair's shoes.
Maharaj, I really liked in this chapter.
Bhakti Robert is speaking. I really like in this chapter.
I told a friend yesterday.
I told a
that-
friend yesterday
said,
that
I like this word equipoise.
I like this word equipoised.
And then today it's like.
It was over and over and over again. You heard it.
Like, it was really good.
Prabhupada said another reason why the repetition is there is for a thorough understanding. And another reason that I thought of is that because of the nature of time, time causes you to forget. Doesn't make any difference who you are. Even Lord Brahma sometimes forgets, and he's in control of the whole thing. So what to speak of us? So if we don't hear again and again, especially the basics, we'll forget. It's as simple as that. Therefore, Prabhupada was so kind. He foregoeth. That sounds more like Prabhupada. 18th century English from Scottish Churches College. Yeah, I think that one of the biggest sacrifices he made was to repeat the basics again and again, practically without going off of them. He did in Chaitanya Charitamrita and other places. He gives everything practically. But in his lectures and in his association, in his Sangha, he just drilled it into us, After purport. Yeah. Another reason why I'm very convinced that if we do this every day, it's a big help. And I'm getting a lot of feedback also from devotees who are saying that they're getting help. I've heard that their sadhana is being revived by this process, which is giving me an unlimited sense of happiness and satisfaction.
Yeah, the devotees in Denver, they really.
Yeah, also,
They
yeah,
like this very, very much.
yeah. That's it, kids. I got to save my voice for tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you from devotees from the. Forgive my offenses. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the club. You're not too far away from me now.